okay? Can you hear me? Everybody hear me okay? Great. Welcome. Welcome back this afternoon. I know it's always tempting. It's sunny outside, but this is going to be a great panel, and you're all going to learn so much from our four panelists today. As you know, I'm Steve Dolinsky, your moderator throughout the weekend. And before we get started, we are going to draw a winner because, as you know, there are cards in front of you. We ask you always at the end of the seminar to fill them out, give us some feedback, tell us how we can improve these next year, and by turning it in, one of you is going to win a $50 Amex gift card, and that person is Sergio Caceres. Sergio, you here? Do you have to be present to win? I think you do. Okay, Sergio, you're not here? Caceres, sorry. No, okay. How about, Anto, I can't read that. Antonek? Open Table and
Open Table? That's not a name.
not a name, I agree. It's got to be a name.
That's a double.
Mario Lataif? All right. Thank you. Come on up. All right, so fill those cards out. And just real briefly, if you want to Twitter or follow us or tell the world about what we're doing here, the hashtag is AmexTrade, and the Twitter is @briefing. And then we're also going to have some selected video clips from the seminars up online about 3 hours after they take place at restaurantbriefing.com. So tell your friends and family about that. Okay, so this seminar, which is going to be about an hour, and then we're going to open up for questions at about 2:15, right? Wait, no, it's 1:30 now. 2:30, we'll open it up for questions for 15 minutes. I promise to get you out at 2:45. Is called Fame Game, The Reality of TV, and I had this really clever subtitle, which isn't really going to apply right now, but I was going to call it Cowboys, Pledge Drives, and Fedoras. But as you know, Mr. Mendelsohn no longer wears chapeaus every day as part of his persona. But that leads to my first question, which is, if you're on television, do you need to have some kind of a shtick, gimmick, hook, angle? Sportscasters do it all the time when they call home runs. Emeril made a whole career out of 3 letters. Do you need to have something to grab people if you're going to do television? Anybody?
I mean, well, for me personally, you know, I was cooking in New York City at a restaurant in my house for Drew, and you know, I was really definitely not, you know, a chef that was known within the industry. And once I got the opportunity to be on Top Chef, you know, I took it really serious. I thought it was a great opportunity to brand myself and to put myself out there. And you know, there was about 16 chefs on the show, so any way I could stand out or, you know, make myself maybe a little bit more dramatic on the show, you know, it's kind of like that one chance. You got to make the best out of it. So for me, like, you know, wearing a fedora all the time and playing up the character a little bit was something I really wanted to do, and you know, ended up kind of working quite well for me.
And Tim, in a way, I mean, when I say cowboy, it's not a stretch. You are a cowboy. You've done cattle drives. You wear the hat, right?
Yeah, I think that talking about the topic itself, and you know, chefs on TV, I think there's 2 kinds of TV that you do. You do TV like Spike's talking about, like these competition shows that are produced and talked about and not manipulated is a bad word, but that's what they are. I mean, they edit the way they want the show to go. It's a TV show. And then there's TV that are the 3.5, 5-minute segments that you do on morning TV or afternoon TV, or if you get a chance to do, you know, late night TV. I think it's 2 separate situations. But to your point, I think that, I don't know if it's a shtick, but I think that everybody has to have their own thing, whatever it is. Now, TV accentuates that. It's not really that somebody creates something for TV. It's more, hopefully, and the things that seem to travel further are TV picks it up and runs with it. I mean, we see it in sports, like you said. You see it in sports. You see it.
Tebow.
Yeah, exactly, Tebow. Like the guy kneels down and prays. I mean, I don't think he decided he's going to do that for TV, or at least I hope he didn't. But
I should do that on a competition show every time I play that.
Well,
I should start Tebowing. Maybe I'll win.
So, I think it's a part of, you know, people pick up on personalities and get excited about it because they feel like they're part of it. And that's what TV does. It brings part of other people's personality to the rest of the world or the country or whatever that may be.
And yet Jacques has had a long, successful career without having to try to do any of that stuff, right? I mean,
Well,
12 shows, 27 books.
You really cannot escape yourself
Is it just
eventually.
27 books? Is
You
that
go-
it?
all right.
27.
But for me, I decided to take a French accent at the beginning.
Well played.
We were talking about that earlier.
Very
Worked out pretty good for
It
you.
worked out well. Now, if Ming could do that, that would be cool.
No, but we talked about that with Julia several times, and it's true. You cannot escape yourself. You are who you are. Some people are going to like you, some don't really care one way or the other. Some detest you. I remember Michael Le Monaco. When he started, he did a thing on the Food Channel network, and I know him for a long time, and I know him well. And I've cooked with him, and he's a very soft, gentle person. He's a great cook and all that. And I saw him on television, and he was jumping, doing too. I mean, I end up at the end of my seat. He made me very uncomfortable. And he asked me, I said, but it's not who you are. Well, he started just after, a while after Emerald. So they say, you have to have bam, you have to jump. That wasn't his style at all. And, it came through. You could feel it. Now he does other show, he's exactly who he is, and then he's much better. I mean, at some point, you are who you are, and it's a funny thing to say the camera doesn't lie, but it's true. To a certain extent, you can feel it, when people are not comfortable with who they are.
Because people are concerned, do I need to create some kind of a caricature of myself to get noticed? And you're just saying, be yourself.
But that being said, as you said, there is so much competition. Now with young chef, yes, if you have a little bit of a thing, then absolutely. I mean, for chef now, you have to try to differentiate yourself to show that you are unique, to sign that dish, to say, I did it. It's exactly the opposite of when I was a young chef. The idea was to conform, to do like everybody else. So when I worked at the Plaza Athénée in Paris, we have 48 chefs in the kitchen. We did like the lobster soufflé Plaza Athénée. Sure, the 48 of us could have done it. You would not have known which one had done it. That was the idea, to try to conform in the different place. It's a totally different world. I mean, you cannot do that.
You want to say something? Or
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Jacques is the man, period, right? So we should just give it up, because the fact that the three of us get to hang out with Jacques is...
When you're old, that's
So.
what happened when you're old.
But Jacques made his career by just being yourself. And you ended up getting your reputation, but you weren't on just 2 years. If you became the man that was amazing with a knife, you became the man that had an incredible technique and understood everything, and that's the reputation you built. And it's not like, so you could put a hat on, that's what differentiated you and Top Chef. It took Jacques a few years, and there were a couple other French chefs on TV at the time, and Jacques' accent is real. Now, Martin Yan, for example, who's a great friend of all of ours, he really played up the Chinese accent a little bit. I do good Chinese accent too, but I can do that. If you do that, it's considered racist, all right? But if I do it, it's okay. I can't do Jewish jokes. That's no good, right? There's the difference at TV, but Jacques started it, and he built his reputation on being the most precision chef and an incredible palate, and he's an artist, and just everything he does. I was somewhat lucky because I do East-West, right? So I was kind of niched in, and I was the other Martin Yan, if you would. But I did absolutely consciously through my producer, Julie Harrison's like, you need a tagline. And Bon Appetit was taken. So I couldn't use that one. And I came up with Peace and Good Eating. And so there's that's my fedora, if you would. You want to be able to, in like Spike's case, you want to be, oh yeah, that's the guy in the hat. All right, Thierry Rothereau, if you know him from Seattle, he's the chef in the hat. And that's kind of how he's differentiated from every other chef as well. So I don't think it's wrong to have that differentiating quality, but at the end of the day, you still got to cook. Right. If you can't cook, it doesn't matter what you're wearing or who you are or how good your accent is.
Although the landscape is so different now in terms of media and television, would a 20-year younger Jacques Pépin, would that person today have that opportunity on PBS to reach that many people and to be that influential when there's so much other noise going on in cable, online, broadcast, and everybody's got a food show and a food guy or a food woman as a contributor. 20 years ago, there weren't a lot of folks doing this, right?
No, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it was not a different era, but it was a different time, and there wasn't online. So if you take everything off of the web, which is, I mean, millions of shows are out there. I mean, everyone's a food critic too, by the way. What a pain in the butt that is. Please don't tweet while you're eating. Take photos and tweet later. That annoys us restaurateurs a lot. While you're tweeting, you should be eating the food. But it's a totally different landscape. I completely agree. And there's some great, but by the way, there's some great web TV. There's some amazing YouTubes out there of these undiscovered people, and it's cool that they have an opportunity to at least have a chance, because things can go viral like that. And
yeah, but to that point, though, for a YouTube video to go viral, then we've taken the whole food component out of it.
Right.
That's, I mean, I think that's to your point what you're saying. So you got a younger guy that has, let's say, has his talents, which doesn't exist, but like has his talents, and he does what Jacques has done in those 15, 20 years. Does it?
Gin and tonics, by the way.
Gin and tonics, yes.
Gin and tonics.
Does it translate? I say it doesn't.
Really?
Because people, in my opinion, and you say the way TV affects food and business, what Jacques did on TV was so pure and about food, and what TV does today is not pure and about food. And I don't really know a whole lot of shows that are really, truly saying, I mean, for me, and it means a lot to me because I learned how to clean an artichoke by watching him on TV. Like, that was one of the coolest things in my life. And like, cleaning an artichoke to me was one of the hardest things I've ever tried to do. And that's what he ate artichokes today at my lunch. And like, that was very big for me. So, but, well, no, it's true though. But I think it's different now on TV. TV doesn't show how to clean the artichoke that often. What it shows is when somebody screws up an artichoke and stabs himself in the hand, because it's entertaining. It's a different kind of TV today.
There are still true. I mean, one of the reasons.
From East meets West.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, but in all seriousness, one of the reasons I actually left Food Network, I just finished season 10 shooting 2 days ago.
Wow.
And I wanted still to do, like Jacques show, a true cooking show. And I still do talk about techniques and sushi rolling and why you buy this rice or that rice. Because at the time, 12 years, 9/11 is actually the last time I did East meets West and Ming's Quest. Food Network was just, which is awesome. I mean, I owed my career to them. They wanted entertainment, to Tim's point. They wanted, they wanted me traveling on Ming's Quest and wrestling alligators, and that was fun, obviously. I'm glad I didn't lose. But they were going away from true cooking shows because it's Nielsen rating based. And Nielsen rating, they want. I mean, Top Chef, they want to see two people hook up, right? They want to see that. They want that controversy. They want to see blood if someone cuts himself. And to Tim's point, is correct. That's going away from what it's not a cooking show, it's an entertainment show.
Well, yeah, but I have been told that there is 400, I saw on television the other day, someone said there is 407 cookery show on television. I have no idea whether it's accurate, but I mean, I was flabbergasted, And it is true that the shows are very different. I'm not trying to be who I am not in one sense, and a lot of people don't like me at all or don't care at all. I'm not particularly.
Is there one person here that doesn't like Jacques?
Yeah, no, but not particularly interested in cooking. Some people want to see other things, want to have fun and so forth. You look at television for what you want to look at, So and it's. But my point is that you don't try really to be not who you are not, because it really doesn't work out.
So are you saying there's not an opportunity for someone, let's say in this audience, who's a up-and-coming chef, or maybe they've been cooking for years, and they want to do television, but there really is not an opportunity to do thoughtful, smart, I'm going to teach you how to do something, or it's got to be all battles and reality?
Well, that stuff doesn't really I mean, for me, reflecting on my own personal career, I mean, I was the guy that read The Apprentice, Jacques Pépin's book, and was truly inspired as a young chef. I followed the Ducasses of the world. I wanted to be, I went to France and traveled and did my apprenticeship there. I wanted to work, at all the fine dining restaurants and myself open up a 3 Michelin star restaurant one day. But it's amazing to me how quickly everything turned as soon as I went on a reality television show. I mean, like, that whole plan that I had set out, that I wanted to be one of the, the most recognized chefs, have 3 Michelin stars, went completely out the window as soon as I started doing a reality television show, because it's just what happens. It's like people want to see the drama. They want to, then all of a sudden, like, I built a brand on Top Chef, and then before you know it, I'm not really, doing any classic French cooking anymore. I'm owning a burger spot and a pizza spot, and I'm trying to get on all sorts of different reality shows. So for me, it's a phenomenon. Like this reality television thing, I think, has really shaped, what the business is all about a little bit. I mean, maybe it's unfortunate, maybe it's fortunate. I don't think there's really no here or there. I think it's just, I think it's really interesting how it's kind of shaped.
It's a good point, because, as you said, your life changed practically overnight, the reality show. The show that we do, and I think you do the same thing, we do what is called a double series. We do 26 episodes in one shot. We have to reset the whole thing and so forth. I bet you I've done, now with KQED, the PBS station in San Francisco, I've done it for 25 years. I've done 13 shows of 26 series. And I bet you that it takes me probably 5 years, at least 2 or 3 series, for people to say, hey, I know you. Hey, so it took much, much longer. It's not something overnight. It was totally different.
Is that because of the public television audience versus a cable audience?
Well,
yes, and maybe
yes,
the
somewhat.
reality, as he said.
I mean, to your point, I also think like this generation is a generation that doesn't have any patience. They don't really want to sit through a half-an-hour cooking show for like one recipe. Like they want to see a show that like there's a quick fire in it, and like in 15 minutes within the show, like there's 10 different recipes that they just watched. Like, like they have iPhones at their fingertips, they have iPads, they want everything really, really quickly. And they want it to be dramatic, and they, it's the old school way of watching, like, sitting back and watching a half-an-hour show for just one recipe. I just don't think can survive anymore, really.
All right, you've talked a little bit about, you touched on how television has really affected your career. Can each of you talk a little bit about what TV has afforded you, allowed you to do in terms of speaking engagements? I was in the tent today and I saw your knife line. So there's obviously things that happen as a result of TV.
One?
No, but I'm on their mailing list, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, Mario, Bobby, myself, Sarah Moulton at the time, we all said this. We got to ride Emerald's train, right? As soon as Emerald said bam, because his first show, to be honest, all of our first shows were not that good. But once he started Emerald Live, he really is the first to bring entertainment into a cooking show. He had the band. He had this excitement, and people loved it. He's like, garlic, and everyone would have clapped, right? I mean, I don't know how many times Jacques has said garlic and no one clapped, right? I mean, and spice it up, kick it up. I mean, right? So, and we all jumped on that train, and that's what I started Food Network. It was 8 million households, and it's well over 88 million now. And so by riding Emerald's train, it absolutely afforded us. I mean, I said this I think 3 years ago, sitting right here. The best thing that television as a chef has done for me is I can get a reservation in any restaurant in this country. Literally the best. Because did you make a killing from Food Network salary? No, you don't. Do you make a killing from public television? No. Indirectly, however, if you sell books, like 27 books, or sell knives, or sell spices, or have a line at Target, that obviously got me those deals. And speaking engagement, of course, because it's TV, and people want to recognize and say, oh, okay, I know him, I recognize him, he cooks. And but I really do think it's two different shows now. I think there's cooking shows like what Jacques and I do, and then there's reality cooking series, which are more entertainment based. Both are good. The second one has a much higher Nielsen ratings, bar none. But there's still a niche of people that want to still learn how to cook. And case in point, everyone knows Gordon Ramsay, right? And he yells and screams and whatnot. Some of his best stuff now, and this is where the web, I think, is going to really help. The web will help keep true cooking shows because you can produce it cheaply, practically free. You don't have to have a network behind you. You can get stuff out there. Gordon Ramsay has these YouTubes out there, how to make an omelet, how to break down a chicken. And he's an amazing chef, and he went back to his roots of cooking. And those are true cooking shows because it's just him in the kitchen by himself with a chicken. So there's still going to be opportunities for that. It just won't be on a major network or cable because they need to make money. It's advertisers pay on Nielsen ratings. It's that simple.
If people do it online themselves, like you're suggesting, then would they need to get a sponsor? Or they're not going to make any money right off the bat.
No, but once they have 100,000 followers and 500,000 and then 1 million, then they can go to an All Clad or to whatever, or Breitling, and say, look, I have 1 million people hitting this every month, and I'm going to continue. Here's my next 26. I mean, it's all about, can you have a show that can sustain? So if you have an idea for a cooking show, you can't just have 3 ideas. You need to say, here's my first 26 shows ideas, and here's my next 26 shows ideas, so people can see, oh, this can last for years and years and years. And but yeah, I mean, you have to have people following a critical mass, and then you can make money.
And Tim, you're in a bit of a different, so I want to get to you in a second. Did a little different because you started out doing some local television, like the 3 to 5 minute hit on the local affiliate, and then you got a guest spot on Top Chef, and you sort of branched out that way a bit, right?
Yeah, I did a lot of local TV, and actually Steve helped me with local TV, oddly enough, years ago. And it's what TV does, I mean, I think this whole seminar about is what TV does is it puts you in front of much more faces than any other media we have right now. So you have internet media, which is very big and huge, but it's big in a sense that of people that don't really make decisions right now. I mean, I think it's changing, definitely. But to what you said, if somebody does a cooking show on the internet or puts it on YouTube and it goes out there and it goes viral, what that becomes is kind of like something that happens on a Saturday Night Live skit, right? So it's an entertainment piece, and it really, quite frankly, has nothing to do with cooking and technique. What it has to do with is food, which people are interested in, but it's really all about the entertainment. Yep. And so it's 2 different paths that can take. You know, you do a 3-minute segment on a local TV or on the Today Show or on one of the big networks. You think about the impact of that, it's really unnoticeable. And it's only unnoticeable until you are 2 years down the road and you're doing an event somewhere that you may have luckily got paid to do. And somebody comes up to you and goes, oh, I wanted to come here and I paid for my ticket. I saw you on the Today Show 2 years ago. And that's when you notice what TV does for people in our careers. Sure. Yep. It's not an immediate impact, really. I mean, yeah, they may impulse buy and buy. You know, I've got a line of stuff at Sur La Table, which I'm very fortunate to have, and I'm very proud of it. And we go on TV and we may see a hit. People buy a couple things here and there, but the real impact is the 1 or 2 years down the road, like you said, that hey, or for me, for you, really, like when I remember How to Clean an Artichoke from Jacques Pépin. I mean, that is what TV does for people. I think it's a very long lead deal that, the internet's so quick, to your point, but TV is a long lead deal because people see it, and then 2 years later they travel to Texas and they come to my restaurant because they saw me on the Today Show. And that is a huge impact.
Did you want to say something?
You have to be willing to give a lot. You have to be willing to go to so many shows for people say, we want you to do a great thing on television, whatever. You bring food processor too, and you say, well, how long do I have? Say, about 30 seconds. Oh, okay. What kind of equipment you have? We have an outlet. Mm-hmm. Okay, so fine.
We might get you an 8-foot table.
You have a knife and a knife and a tomato, and you do a roast or whatever. But you do a lot of those things, and even now, as we do, I do more than 50-60% of what I do for free. I mean, from cystic fibrosis, battered woman, this, cancer too. Everything seems to be filtered through food. If you ask someone, a cardiologist to come and talk about heart and ask people to pay $200 for it, they won't come. But then you have 15 chefs giving their time coming to cook. You have wine donated by different, so people will pay that. So things seem to be filtered through food a great deal, and the chefs are really giving a lot of their time. I'm sure I can go to any of your restaurants and see what ask of you from last month to like 15, 20 times a month. Different organizations ask you to do this, all the time. So you do give a lot. I mean, we give a lot.
And to your point, Jacques, people get mad if you say no.
Sure.
And I'm like, I actually have a life. I have 2 children. I have a business I'm running, and I'm sorry. And they're great causes. It's system. It is AIDS. It's hunger, starvation. I mean, there's amazing charities out there. But at a certain point, and thank God I learned this maybe 10 years ago, you have to just say no. You have to disappoint sometimes, because if you say yes to everything, then you have nothing for yourself. which is the whole, not the point of what we're trying to do.
And cut.
Yeah, yeah.
Spike, do you want to say? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, for me, Top Chef and the show I was on completely changed my life, overnight. I mean, it's like I owe everything I have to the opportunity I had to go on that reality show and showcase my skills and build a brand. But it's an interesting thing. I mean, you go on a show, you get well known, people recognize you now, they want to visit your restaurants, but that's really not enough. Do you know what I mean? You have to deliver. You really, if I didn't have my classic training, if I didn't have all those years of, working really, really hard, long hours, I don't think any of my restaurants would be successful. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't be able to deliver. It's one thing to fill the seats, but you got to get those people to come back to your restaurant. And if you don't deliver with good food and good atmosphere, it's not going to happen.
Actually, the double-edged sword on that is sometimes people come in and say, this better be the best meal I've ever had in my life.
Right.
Right. And I always say, I hope you just ate at McDonald's. Right? Because they do. They put you on a pedestal, which is why they're there the first time. But exactly to Spike's point, you have to deliver.
I feel young chefs out there now that are aspiring to be a TV chef or want to be a celebrity chef, they can't skip the classic training. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's like my biggest pet peeve when kids are saying, oh, I want to go on Top Chef. Oh, I want to do this. I'm like, well, like, listen, all these opportunities are going to be here for you. This is what, like, the business is these days. But take your time, learn your basics, and gain that experience. Because if you're super launched, because you have, like, an amazing, like, character, or you're really good looking, or whatever it is, do you know what I mean? Or if you're a cowboy, you're at the top, but you don't know how to deliver. I don't know. You're sitting right here.
I do see.
You know what I
What
mean?
are you looking at me for? I do see young kids coming out of, they 2 years in school, and they go do their garde manger at Jean Georges for 6 months, and then they're a chef, right? They're allegedly a chef, and they can do a show, and
then they wouldn't
right?
be on
the
Top
next
Chef.
They're the next Paul Bocuse. Like, the thing is interesting for me is, like, I'm not really into, like, the whole molecular cooking or anything, but I did visit one of my chef friends in Virginia, Brian Voltaggio restaurant, where he does, pretty avant-garde cooking and uses all those techniques. And then, I'm rubbing shoulders. I spent 5 days there, and I'm rubbing shoulders with all these 22-year-olds, and, like, they're literally measuring out, like, these powders, like, to, they've got everything, but they don't know what beurre monté is, or they don't know what brown butter is. You know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of a little bit embarrassing sometimes that they just skip that whole classical training and that base, which I feel has made me successful, and then, like, it's very hard to backpedal from that. You know what I mean? Like, there's no soul at that point.
Right. Talk a little bit about the preparation that goes into doing television, like for PBS show, which you're talking about a half-hour format, I guess, typically, versus, and you've done this as well, the 3-minute Today Show versus a quick reality deal. What's the preparation like for those various TV elements?
Well, the 3-minute Today shows, I think, are a lot less about the food and a lot more about the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's if you get caught up in the recipe or trying to deliver it, you've missed, like, your whole talking points. And I feel it's like, whenever I'm doing one of those shows, I'm just throwing things. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just throwing things in a bowl and trying to have a conversation and get the main talking points.
And have they prepped for you, or you prepped yourself?
They prep.
Yeah, they prep. You usually have the food
Today
styles.
Show is awesome. They have amazing food styles.
Right.
You send the
Today
recipe.
Show preps, CBS doesn't prep.
Yeah.
You just walk right in.
Depends on the show.
Well, CBS preps. Well, they don't do anymore, but they don't have any food segments.
I mean, it is nice. Jacques, please.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been to show where the producer will insist. He break down your recipe and he put that into tiny little plastic container, and you go number 1, 2, 3. I mean, you get absolutely berserk. And then, I was on Letterman like 5 times. They didn't even know what I was cooking. I mean, he was interested. Like, one time I had some type of like gooey duck or one of those ugly things. That he was really happy with it. So that has nothing to do with cooking either, but it's going to be very different from one show to the other. For me, when I do a series, and Claude, my friend here, work in the back kitchen, we do prep the food, but I like to do, if I can, the show from the beginning to the end. I mean, the dishes, if I do a dough to do a tart, I don't like to do a dough and take another one which is rolled already or whatever. I like to roll the one that I did and put it into the oven and use it. I think the way I like to do it. It's more credible, you know,
Yeah.
in some ways.
Assuming you have the time to
you
do
know,
it.
A lot of overtime in that.
People work with different ways, you know.
Yeah, but you know what? That's the perfect example we were talking about before, like the purity of what you've done on TV, as opposed to what America is striving for right now, which is
There's nothing wrong, you know. It's great. It's terrific.
They
you know,
want-
what you guys are doing.
At the end of the day, though, like you do those 3-minute segments, the weird part about it is everybody wants it all to be TV ready, but then you got somebody like Matt Lauer that's like has to have his own little plate of everything that he has, and it's got to be perfect. So it's somewhat of a panic state. You have somebody else prepping the food, and then you want to do with the food what you want to do with it, because they're going to come grab it, and he's going to go eat it, and then the whole station's going to talk about it. So it's a weird dichotomy that you have to deal with.
I think a lot of the shows are a little bit misleading. Do you know what I mean? Like, if people watch the show and you're doing it so quickly, and then they're really expected to go in their kitchen and reproduce it that fast. I mean, it just doesn't happen. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think they get really, I don't think they really get the education that they need like they used to. Whereas, you know, Jacques Pépin took the time to really explain why he was doing things and, like, you know, what the technique were, like what the techniques was. And then you really took away a lot from that. You took a lot, you know, great information. These days it's just like, let's throw it together as fast as we can, make it exciting, and then hope for the best for the viewers. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a little different.
You know, when I tell you, when I'm trying, I just did Jest. I did Next Iron Chef 2 years ago, right? I completely got robbed. But, I'm sorry, is this working?
It's working.
But with East Meets West, which I did hundreds of, and then with Simply Ming now, like Jacques, it's not as good as Jacques, but it's a true cooking show, right? We're cooking. We have swap outs because if it takes a 3-hour braise, you say then after 3 hours, look. So there's that. But it's still a true cooking show. Now, Iron Chef or Next Iron Chef and Top Chef, there's great entertainment and value. And Jacques actually last year was my first guest of me trying to combine the best of both worlds. Because what we don't have right now on TV is when Spike created something on Top Chef or I did something on Next Iron Chef, you had no idea what was going through my head, why I took tarragon with salmon with this. And there's a reason, because in the south of France or when I was in China or when we cook, there's always a historical or anecdote why we combine these ingredients. And so last year, and we just finished this year, we're calling it cooking on the fly. So I'm taking the excitement of competition, if you would, under a time frame, but Jacques and I did not cook against each other. We literally picked 2 secret ingredients that neither of us really knew. Swear to God, the producers put them in there. It was shrimp and turkey for Jacques and I. He chose the turkey, and I was his sous chef. So it's not a competition, but I helped him. And Jacques had to articulate, well, I love turkey, and because we've got to cook it quickly, I'm going to do a paillard. And then he taught this whole theory about he doesn't like dry breadcrumbs, but fresh is actually more moist, so it absorbs less moist. So it was again, it had that, but there was a sense of urgency that, okay, you know, I got to cook too. So that I hope there may be more of that, because I think viewers want to understand what goes through our head. You don't want to know half the stuff that goes through our head, but when it comes to cooking, I think you want to know some of that stuff. And but we are always redefining ourselves, because I'm trying to get more audience. And it is true. True cooking shows are not like the reality, but I think reality has peaked a little bit. I mean, there's at a certain point, you know, in Chopped, for example, I mean, that's the extreme. I do not know how to cook jujubes with peanut butter and Jolly Rancher. I mean, why would I, right? And so
Unless they're watermelon Jolly Rancher.
yeah, unless they're watermelon, yeah, watermelon. That's
I like
fair.
that.
But that's like that is incredibly popular. Just won an Emmy, but they're taking watermelon Jolly Ranchers with squid.
Won a Beard Award, Chopped.
I won a Beard Award,
Yeah.
and it won an Emmy. So
Yeah, wow.
it's a real, it's a well-produced show, but it's not a cooking show.
What about go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, the different shows that I've done, like the different book, are thematic usually. I mean, I feel as a professional chef, I put my mind toward that problem. So I did a book for the Cleveland Clinic for cardiac patient weight loss. Okay, I did a book. I had an article in the New York Times for almost 10 years, which was called The Purposeful Cook. It was to cook for a family of 6 for less than $6, $8. So I mean, the theme here was economy in the kitchen. And when I did La Technique, certain book, it was really from the beginning to show people how to break down things. So I did 2 series on television called Fast Food My Way. And what I did, I used what we do in a professional kitchen. Professional kitchen, you have a prep cook, he comes, he bone out the fish, bone out the chicken, he slices the mushroom, he washes the spinach, he chops the shallot, does everything, nothing is cooked, but it's there. If I come to the stove, at that point, someone order a fillet of sole, I grab that fillet of sole, a bit of shallot, some sliced mushroom, dash of wine, bring it to a boil, cook it, piece of butter. I cook that dish 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes because everything is ready. So that's what I did in those 2 series. I used the supermarket as a prep cook, which now we can do, which we couldn't 20, 30 years ago. I have a boneless, skinless breast of chicken. I have a non-stick pan. I have pre-washed spinach. I have whatever. I'll go to the counter, the daily counter. I take a container and I take some black olive and a little mozzarella ball, some dry tomato, some green olive. I'm making a salad, mixing it. Right now. Yeah. And then I buy a package of ham, sliced ham, and I put it in martini glass, let's say a ham hanging over. I have that salad on top. I put some basil and I put that in the middle. First course, bam. Using stuff from the supermarket.
Hey, that shit was just
bad.
bad. That was bad.
I want to ask
No,
if
it's
we could
good.
just, I want to just get off track a little bit because that sounds fantastic, but I do want to continue. But I want to ask you about the business side of this because what you're talking about all goes to if people are in this room and they want to spend time doing this, right? They want to try to put the show together. They want to get themselves on for a segment. What kind of money are we talking about? PBS is a totally different model than cable, and maybe you can address that a little bit. And also, what about just doing a segment? Putting together a segment for local television. It costs you money. You're not in the building. You've got to get everything assembled. You're not getting paid for that, obviously, but it might lead to something else. So talk about the business side of a decision to do television, whether it's a show or a segment or a one-off.
Well, I think I'm not quite sure what you're saying. That it costs money to do these shows, to do these segments.
If you want to do a show on
go to local,
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't cost us anything. It's always, it's always taken care of. For instance, the ingredients are there. They book your travel, things like that. I think it just really needs to relate back to who you are as a chef. I mean, you really need to work with the producers, whoever you're doing the show with, to make sure there's value for you. Do you know what I mean? Because for them, it's like, you have the chef. They're coming to teach you a recipe. It's a great segment. But it needs to correlate with what you're doing in real life, whether it's like reflecting back on one of your restaurants or whether it's advertising a show that you're coming out with or something like that. To me, I think that's where the value of doing those shows are.
But if you're starting from square one.
I think it's different.
Yeah, if you're starting from square one, people ask me all the time, how can I become a celebrity chef? All right. And by the way, if someone wants to work for me at Blue Junior and say my goal is to become a celebrity chef, they're out the door. I don't want celebrity chefs. I want cooks. I want someone to say I want to learn how to cook. Right. So, in case you apply. But I always say, look, there's 2 ways to get on TV. Start with local, and there you are paying everything. You bring your own ingredients. You're not working. You have to bring your pots and pans and your burners and all that. Get on local TV because you want to build a reel. You want to say, here are 3 segments I've done over the year. This is Channel 7, Channel 5, and this one. And you have to build a reel because you're never going to get a Today Show if they're not seeing you do TV somewhere. And the other best way to get a name out there, starting with your city, is do charities. Say yes to every charity, to every heart, cystic fibrosis, AIDS, cancer, everything. So you're there and people, that's really good. How do you make that? And that's how you can start building a reputation that, one, this person's a very nice person, donating lots of time for charity and does good food, right? Make sure you cook something good. And then, I just saw them on Channel 7. And then once you build a reel, then you can eventually start approaching, hopefully through, I think a third party is great here. Have a PR person. It can be your wife, your girlfriend, your brother. It doesn't have to be an official PR person you're spending $100,000 with. But just have them be able to say, hi, I represent Tim Love. I'm doing his PR. I'd like to see the reel.
You can't VIP yourself.
Yeah, you can't say, I'm so good. No, but if you do PR, he is so good. Check out his reel. And that's how you get on Today's Show. But you have to build from square one. It's again, Spike's a different formula. It was a reality show, Top Chef. He wins it, boom, Spike. But that is not that.
I didn't win. No,
You
but
didn't
know
win?
what?
See, isn't that amazing?
If
I actually never saw the show. I knew you had the hat.
If I start winning, I'm getting nervous because everything's going well.
But isn't that amazing? Because I figured with his fame, he won. Did you lose first round? No, I know you did.
Yeah, no. I got the thing is I could piggyback on this because yes, I did do the reality show. That's kind of what got me started. But after that, it's like it's not like you just get on a reality show and you do well and then like everyone's coming for you. You really have to work hard. You have to embrace your local community. You have to go do the charity work. You should want to do it because that's who's going to that's going to be your clientele. That's going to come fill your restaurants. It's going to spread the word about your show, spread the word about your everything that you're doing. So to embrace your local community, I think is like the single most important thing.
And then making that big jump to I want to do a show now on Cooking Channel or Food Network or PBS. How does that get done?
You said it earlier. You need a hook. You need a hook. It has to be something.
You need money. I mean,
Good point. More money.
Because one model you raise money, one model someone does the raising money for you.
No, but I am at the French Culinary Institute in New York. I teach there 20-some years, and the same thing in exit interview. The chef again, I stuck to you. I really have a good idea. I'd like to do a book or a show or whatever. And frankly, I said, well, do you have like $750,000? Because if you have that money, I will find you a producer and you will do a show. It may not be good or two, but you will do a series of 5, 6, if you have the money, because certainly on PBS it always amounts to this. Can you raise money and, to raise the show?
I think the best show that really exemplifies what that's all about is the next Food Network star, right? Because people that are going on that show, what the production's trying to do and the people that, the judges, they're trying to build your brand. They're trying to give you that niche, like, that hook. That hook value that's going to keep people kind of tuning into. They're trying to build their brand, yes, but they're also trying to build that individual's brand to make them the best, TV star that they can be. Like the, Top Chef, Iron Chef, like it's competition, it gets dirty, there's a lot of drama. But the next Food Network star, I think it's really trying to build a TV personality.
And
like
in that model, they own everything, right?
Correct.
I remember years ago, I'll never forget this. Alton Brown was a story. It was in the Atlanta airport, and reading a whole story about Alton Brown's career. And the one thing that stood out was, next time I do this, I want to own the show because they own everything. But in the same respect, like you said, speaking engagements, endorsements.
Right.
So how does that? Right.
But it's a great support system. Like them owning everything is a great support system. Like Alton Brown now, like after many years of working, with the Food Network, I'm sure owns a nice little chunk of some of the shows that he does. I mean, I don't know his business affairs, but I would imagine at some point you get to a point in your career where you could start calling the shots a little bit more.
But at the beginning, they're paying you a
But
salary.
I mean,
right?
imagine someone like Alton. I mean, you hit it on the head. I mean, Food Network back in the day paid us, thousands of dollars. That was it to do the show. So you're not going to retire on that. But they own 100% of the shows. Alton, for example, he does a Welch's grape juice commercial. I don't think Food Network gets a dime of that. I bet you that's all him. And that's real money, I would imagine. And that's
the book you did for the Food Channel Network.
a book.
A book you do for cook.
No, I never did a Food Network book.
No, you
yeah.
never did,
I mean, to be honest, one of the other reasons besides I always wanted to continue to do a true cooking show is I wanted to own my show, right? I own my restaurant, and I own Simply Ming outright in the world. So when the show is in Australia and Asia and whatnot, there's a residual there, and that you can never get with Food Network.
In my opinion, though, the reality, getting back to what we're talking about, the reality of TV is this. With TV, you create opportunities. It's the reality of it. Like if you sit back and you cook tremendous food, and you have a 50-seat restaurant, and it's fairly full most of the time, and your local community loves you, which is awesome. The reality of TV is this: when you're on TV, it creates opportunities for you to show more people exactly what you can do. That's the reality.
I also think, being a TV chef is great and everything, but I think you definitely have to have something for yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like owning your own restaurants, like most of us do. Like having something to rely on, because you never know. Maybe TV is going to go away at a blink of an eye. Just as fast as it put you out there, maybe one day it's going to drop you, or who knows what's going to happen in life. So to have something to fall back on that's really yours, I think is also really important. I don't think you should go into blindly like, oh, TV is going to support me for the rest of my life. Like, I don't think that's a really great life plan.
And as much as, you know, viewing has been fragmented now on all these different screens, and TV ratings have dropped, I've seen it in Chicago for the last 6, 7 years, that's still a way to get a lot of eyeballs. So you are getting a mass audience pretty quickly and easily in one sort of one-stop shopping. And I wanted to ask you about media training, because you say just getting on TV is going to affect you. The reason I got into media training years ago was I read a profile of you, Ming, in the New Yorker about how you went to get media training. Yep. And it was eye-opening because I'd never realized, wow, there's a whole business here of teaching people kind of how to navigate those waters. So is that crucial for?
It was
natural, really.
I'm a natural.
It was night and day for me. For me, when I started Food Network, I did Ready, Set, Cook, right? And I did Chef du Jour, and I was horrible. Chef du Jour, Ready, Set, Cook, there's an audience. You can throw tomatoes, you can have a banter, and you can be fun. Chef du Jour is 4 cameras in a cold room, and every time I cracked a joke, no one laughed because no one was there. And you're like, was I really stupid? Then you start thinking, am I really stupid? Then you lose everything, you know? And I had an opportunity to take over Sarah Moulton's show for 1 week. She used to have Cooking Live. And Marilyn O'Reilly was the producer of that. And she says, look, I want you to do this. I think you have presence, but get media training. Here's a guy named Lou Eckes. He's in Western Mass, close to where I lived. He will give you that extra, oomph you need to do TV. And by the way, Emerald did it, Bobby did it, Mario did it, Sarah did it. They all went to Lou Eckes. So I'm like, well, if they did it, absolutely. And it was expensive. It was like $3,000 for 2 days. And I'm a consulting chef at the time, which means unemployed chef. And that was real money. But he taught some of these. The first thing he says, be sexy to the camera, which makes no sense to anyone. I mean, what does that mean? And then he explained it that, look, you're talking to one person in a room, and that person, you have to make sure you get that person for the entire half hour. And then he taught you a couple of tricks. You don't ever say, and through the magic power of TV, souffle. No, you take your lamb rack and you put it seamlessly into the oven, say, this lamb rack was marinated, you put it into the oven, and look what, after 20 minutes, it's crusty. And so those tricks absolutely helped. And without that, Emerald, Bobby, I think we'd be much worse. Eventually, I think we would have gotten it, but he was a pro.
Yeah.
It helps. I don't know, Jacques probably never had it because you had the accent.
No, but it was different. It's true, but it was quite different. At the beginning, there was no rule. I mean, the first show that I did was in Jacksonville, Florida. I did a series there in 1982, I believe. I think 82. But in any case, prior to this, I had a very bad accident. That's 14 fracture in car accident. So I was moving away from because there is nothing like being a chef behind the stove 12, 14 hours a day. There is nothing as hard as this. So I was starting teaching, cooking school were opening too, and I ended up during all the 70s and all that, doing 40 weeks out of the year, giving classes all over California, and people would say, okay, we'll book you for next year. So I was doing a good living out of that, but I was teaching 25 people. I started doing book, but the book are not selling. The idea of television was exposure. All of a sudden from 25 people, when I'm looking at hundreds of thousands of people on PBS, and at that point you do a book, then the book sells, of course, in a different way than if you're just teaching somewhere.
But this was trial by fire for you. You just did TV, like Julie just did it and figured it out.
Right.
Have you guys had any training?
Any
training for you or no?
Pardon me?
A little training is good for someone?
Yeah, I mean, I got some training from you.
Well, I didn't want,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right. So.
I know that's a self-plug. Well done.
Yeah.
Steve, well done.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah. Steve,
Spike, for you as well?
I don't know. Maybe I need some training after hearing everyone talk. I've never really done any type of media training. I've definitely gone on some segments and embarrassed myself and not done really well. And then you kind of go back home and you sit in front of the mirror a couple hours and you're like, okay, I would have done it this way, or you talk to yourself and you pump yourself up. So I mean, I think it's for me, it was trial by error. Sometimes I fell flat on my face and embarrassed myself, and then sometimes I nailed it. And through practice and constant, it's like I took anything that came to me, like any opportunity to be on television, any morning show, the CBS show that I did as a food reporter for a little while, anything that came my way, I just decided to take. And I thought by doing so much, eventually I would become good at it and I would get it.
Last question before we open it up for questions. Can you give people 3 good tips for just having a really good TV segment if they've never done one before, whether they're in New York or Kansas City or Chicago, 3 good tips for a good TV segment.
I'll say that. I think when you do a TV segment, it's much different than doing a reality show.
Right.
So you got to get your points across, what you want to say. You want people to know who you are and how you do it. So if you have an opportunity to do a TV show for a segment, a 3-minute, 3.5, usually what it is, you always want to, you want to start with who you are. Don't ever be afraid to say who you are. I think that's a big thing for people. When they pitch to you, when you watch yourself on TV, if you ever get a chance, they're gonna have a shot of the host, whoever that is, and then it's gonna go to a 2-shot of 2 people, and they're gonna talk about you, and that's your opportunity to say who you are and what you do. I mean, it's probably 15 seconds, which is a long time, really, but you take that, then show what you're gonna do today, and explain why, and direct the show. Because if you don't direct the show, they're going to direct the show, and when they do, it has nothing to do with you.
Sure.
So take your 3.5 minutes and the amount of time you put into it and realize the last 30 seconds is your other opportunity to say everything you want to say. And the best thing to do is feed them.
Right.
You have your segment, put some food in their mouth, you say whatever you want to say because they can't speak.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's the greatest tip of all.
Sure.
Like, get them involved in your demo. They're like, okay, now season this or beat this, because they're some of them are a little ego-driven and love to be heard. So you have to keep them busy and feed them so you can shut them up and you can get your points across, really.
Right. If you put food in their mouth, they can't speak. And they know that because they don't want to look like a fool. So always make something good, have a good product for them to eat. And then as they eat, you tell whatever you want because they can't speak.
I think it's very important to have eye contact with the camera. Direct eye contact, close. People have their head down. So what do you say? Well, eye contact with the camera. Slow down, even though you say it's only 3 minutes. So because it's only 3 minutes, people accelerate. When in fact you should slow down because they don't know what you said. Well, for me, they never know what I said. Anyway, but the point is that, yes, slow down and have a beginning, middle, and end. Even if you only do an egg, you say, I'm putting this in there, I'm doing that, you have contact, and so that at the end they say, that's what he did. You understand, so they've learned something, or, it's important to be pretty pragmatic this way. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with everything said. I think practice your segment. If you know you're going to make chicken milanese, whatever, practice it. Because, I could do that in 3 minutes. It actually took you 9, right? So you have to practice it with the clock and make sure you can do it in 3. And then take the steps out that you know you are not going to have time for. I love especially if it's Today's Show or GMA, I always get from the producer, what are they going to say about me? Because sometimes it'll still be like, East meets West, or Ming's Quest will be something that's not accurate. So make sure you get the most salient points that you want, to Tim's point, to get across, that they're saying it for you. And one tip I always do is I say, hey, Matt, or hey, Ann Curry, whoever it is, hey, can you ask me about my book? Or can you ask me about my project? Or ask me about my charity? Because I'm there for a reason. And if they ask you about it, I'm not self-promoting. They say, hey, how's that new book? Oh, my one-pot book, it's awesome. Al Roker says, man, tell me about this knife. I'm like, really, Al? I'd love to. But it's okay. That's all off camera. So prep them to make you just be informative. You're just answering their questions. But you have to practice because the time does go quick. Yep. And Jacques' point is paramount. Look at the camera because they really think you're looking at them. And this is why cooking shows, Emerald and I had this conversation 12 years ago, why children, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old love cooking shows because the kids actually think we're talking to them. It's only newscasters and chefs that look at the camera the whole time in TV. Everything else, you're the third party. You watch Friends, you're just watching it. But we can look at you and talk to you, and if they have that contact, they're going to buy your book.
Even if you're with, like Matt Lauer, you want to look at Matt?
And you want to make sure, and never, by the way, never show up a host, right? Don't ever show up a host. You'll never be back on that show again. So make them look great, too. Like, oh, Matt, what a great cut, or whatever it might be. And so you have that dialogue, but then you go like that. That's a great cut.
And you can refer to them by name. I think always helps.
Oh, get the names.
Get the names of them. It always helps. And if you're like a little nervous and it's like your first couple of times doing it, you can always ask for a producer to hold like huge like talking points. Like these are the 3 things you really want to get across. You know, after some point, maybe you don't really need those, but I mean, it always helps maybe if you're kind of nervous for the first time, just to have them
Have
like
your cousin come along with you into that.
But,
Right, exactly.
But the most important thing, be yourself, because people recognize it.
right.
They know when you're trying to do something, and people know when you're just doing something.
I think that was more than 3 tips.
Sincerity.
Which goes back to our original point. That was great. Great tips, guys. Thanks. So let's open up for questions. About 15 minutes here. Sarah's got a microphone here. If you would just raise your hand. Maybe over here, yeah. And just identify yourself, maybe where you're from, and thanks.
Hi, I'm Ryan from Chicago. I actually have 2 things. The first one's for Ming. I don't think that you and Sarah and Mario rode Emerald's coattails. I think that what you guys were doing at the time, the Food Network launched, was something very special and raw, and I think that they owe you a very debt of gratitude, because when I was a young cook, that's all that I watched was that show, was Chef du Jour and Emerald, Essence of Emerald. And so anyway, I don't think you should feel that way. The second thing is we touched on, you guys, you touched on the younger generation a little bit on how they want to become TV stars. And what I really want to know is that they didn't have the same kind of training that you guys had, or the generations before them. So whose responsibility does it fall on when a culinary student comes to your restaurant and says, I want to be a TV star? Does it fall on the responsibility of the chef to try to teach them the proper ways and technique? Does it fall on the culinary school? Or does it fall on the TV personalities to say that we worked really hard to get here, and we cut our teeth, and this is not something normal that happens overnight? So I guess that's kind of the question.
I think it's a little bit of everything, right?
I think it's an interesting question the way it was phrased, because you didn't put any onus on the person that's supposed to be learning how to cook. So quite frankly, the onus is always on the student, not the teacher. The teacher is there to provide, but the student's there to learn. And what TV has done, to your point, is say, hey, you can become a star because look at everybody on TV. But they forget about the 6 million cooks that are out there that are striving and trying to learn. And I think the young cooks come in and say, I want to be a TV star, and why don't you tell me how to do that? Well, the onus is actually on the student. I mean, I hauled wood for years just so I could cook with a guy. I mean, there's not that kind of onus in the cooking a lot of times, where it's like
Dues paying.
Yeah, I mean, there's no onus. Like, it's funny that you asked who's responsible for that, and none of it was the actual cook, and it's actually the person, I think.
I actually also think that culinary schools across the nation should start to have a curriculum, because since it is like a huge phenomenon now, like becoming a TV chef, maybe they should start talking about it in their schools while they're teaching them some of the classic backgrounds on how to cook, that becoming a TV chef is something completely different, and there's steps you probably need to take to get there. It's not like you can just get out of culinary school and become the next big, huge TV star. I mean, some people can, but I don't think that's like mass appeal. I think some of the instructors at the school should probably, take students under the wing that are aspiring to be TV chefs, and kind of like put them in their place a little bit. Like, you've got time, and learn your basics, work at a couple of restaurants, and make it like an interesting ride for yourself. It's like, you don't want to just get out and become the next TV chef. I think you want to have a little bit more body than that.
What I tell students, say I want to go in the food world, and I say, well, you have to go in for the right reason, and the reason is that you love it. The reason is that it gratifies you. You like to do this. But if you come to say, I want to become a celebrity chef, I'll tell them, fine, come here, come to the school, do that. If it's your reason to coming in that business, you're very likely to have serious disappointment in your life, because it may or it may not happen, and very likely it will not happen. Now, if you come for the right reason, that you really love that trade, you really love to cook, and it gratifies you and so forth, then you go into the business for that thing. Then you have a restaurant, and things happen, and you may become a celebrity chef. But even if you don't, you will have a happy life too, because that's what you love to do in life. But if you only go to become celebrity, it's likely that it won't work.
I think Jacques hit it on the head. You have to project and visualize that you want to be a good cook. And the reason I love to cook is I can make people happy 120 to 300 every day through food. Everything else is icing. I never was cooking in France saying I want to be on TV. That came later. But that never would have happened if I wasn't a good cook first, to Spike's point. You have to know how to cook. And I say that, I mean, I said it earlier. If you're trying to cook to become famous, that's like, I want to, oh, is this how you throw a free throw? Oh, I can be a professional basketball player. It ain't happening. Right.
I think it's also just really, really quick. I think it's also kind of like the same kind of question that I get a lot from parents. They're like, listen, my kid loves cooking and he wants to become a chef, right? Not celebrity chef. He just wants to become a chef. Well, the first thing I tell that father was like, listen, before you make an investment of, $50,000 or whatever it is these days to go to culinary school, make sure your kid maybe works at a restaurant for a year and really wants to be there and really enjoys it, because there's a lot of students these days that go right from high school into culinary school without any experience in a restaurant, right? They go through this 2-year, culinary degree, spend $50,000 of their parents' money. They go to a restaurant where they're, yelled at and told, part of the business to get to work, and they hate it. Do you know what I mean? And they've wasted 2 years of their life because they're not meant for the business. I mean,
they also weren't told by C.A. Johnson Wales, by the way, when you come out of culinary school, you're not a sous chef. You're a cook, and you'll be lucky if you don't do onions for the first 6 months.
Sure.
Cook if you're hired.
Exactly.
Yeah, right, if you're hired. But you're going to be peeling onions. You're not on the line there flambéing with Jacques. No, you're peeling onions, dude.
Right. Yeah. So the same thing if you want to become a celebrity chef and you have, you don't aspire to own a restaurant. Well, go, chop vegetables for a celebrity chef, at the Food Network. Go learn a little, do an apprenticeship at the Food Network studios and see what it's all about and see if it's really for you. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I could really criticize somebody that really just wants to become a celebrity chef and not own restaurants. It's maybe what they want to do, but at least do a little bit of research before you take that big step.
Like moving in with somebody before you get married. You want to live with them for a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Work a little bit.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
That's right.
Question over here in the front. Yes, go ahead.
It's a great advice.
This is kind of a broad question. My name is Angelica. I come from New York, de España. And I wanted to ask on a personal note, how many of your personal or original career goals get compromised, if any, within the world of reality TV and your celebrity status? And how do you deal with this attention and all of that?
Whoa, could you repeat that one more time for me?
How many of your personal or original career goals in cooking and your chef get compromised, if there are any, really, within the world of reality TV and your celebrity status, and how do you deal with all of this?
So, I think it's all about it, like balance and compromise. Like I was mentioned before, like I was a chef that read like the books of these amazing chefs. Like I did my apprenticeship in France, got beat up over there, and I aspired to work for only the best chefs, and that's what I did for a long time. And I wanted to own a 3 Michelin star restaurant. That was like my whole goal when I was 18, 19 to 23. But then there came a point where a new opportunity came, and to go, it was actually my sister that encouraged me to go do Top Chef because she was like a fan of the show. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then just my life completely changed. Sometimes it saddens me just a little bit because it's kind of that's the career path I want to do. But at the end of the day, you just got to roll with it. And as long as you're happy and you're passionate and you're confident, I mean, it works. I mean, that's my story as far as that's concerned.
But it depends what you mean by compromise, For me, there is no compromisation. If something is good, I mean, I've been to people where they want to do their own ketchup. It's disgusting. Then they make bread. They make bread, and and they say this is homemade bread. Then you have to go on your knee. It's homemade. It's disgusting. Yeah. I mean, the thing.
I've seen
if you can buy it, you can buy a better croissant, a better bread, or a better pâté. Buy it, and you don't have to hide it. There is nothing wrong with it. It's not a question of. I can do, and I have done book. I mean, where I went fishing in my pond in Connecticut to get frogs, so I could take the skin out of it to show you how to take the skin out of frog too, and so forth from the beginning. And other, like when I say I did fast food my way, where I use the supermarket as a prep cook, the best stuff that I can, makes no difference. What's important is what's in the plate. It's good, great, fine, however you get there. So I don't call that compromise, like people want only organic or only, I mean, I've been to restaurants where they introduce you the carrot. That carrot is named Betty, and it was born on the See, give me
Who
a break.
cares?
Give me the
That
camera.
would be the series Portlandia.
I mean,
But to address the compromise on the personal side, I can address that wholeheartedly. I have 3 beautiful children and a really badass wife, and she has been beside me through my whole journey and what I'm doing in cooking. And there are some compromises there. I mean, you have to, the old saying, you got to give to receive, right? So it's tough. It's tough to do, you build fans through TV, and you want to give them something at different places and different things and do different things at your restaurants. I mean, I have 6 restaurants. I can't be in 6 at the same time, obviously. I do keep them all in the same city, so I can at least go through them every day when I'm there. But there's compromise through all that. And TV creates that in its own self that says, you build these fans. And when you build the fans, it's kind of like be careful what you ask for sometimes, because the most important thing that makes people go every day is what we love. And to Jacques' point, you don't take a job being a cook if you don't like to cook. And so I love to cook. And I didn't discover it till I was 18 years old. But I also love my family more than anything. So you got to figure out a way to meld that together. So sometimes you tell your family, hey, we're all going to learn to cook today because it's going to be fun. And they kind of believe it for a while, and then they get older and like, you're full of crap. So, but it is part of it. And it's a big, for me, personally, it's a big decision on how do I balance making sure that I teach my son how to shoot a gun and how to scope a gun in and, how to clean a deer, and then at the same time doing a lunch for Amex and Aspen. And those are created through great cooking and through great friends, and TV provides those opportunities. So there is compromise, to your point. Absolutely.
You try to make good decisions.
If I may add to that, we're asked, did you sell out, right, to your point? And, Rick Bayless is a great friend of mine. He got a lot of flack when he did his whole thing with Burger King, right? Like, boy, you sold out, buddy. And he actually backpedaled and gave all the money to charity and whatnot. And look, that happens. And when I was approached by Target, and they're an amazing company, 15 years ago they still are the Casimir, but back then they were just getting, Mizrahi and Michael Graves and taking experts in whatever field and combining it. And they asked me at a dinner at Blue Ginger, said, would you do a line with us? And I literally said, well, let me think about it. Yes. Because I knew the power. It told me a lot. It told me, one, that I was now considered Middle America, not just Chinese chef, which I thought was cool. But it's all about your own value system and how you prioritize. Good gin and tonic.
Yes.
Prioritize. Because you can't cheapen your value system. As long as I made the best stir-fried noodle kit in the market at $4.99, it was still best of class, I'm okay with that. I'm still proud of that. It's frozen, yes. And is it as good as what I'd make at home? No, not even close. But it's the best frozen noodle kit out there. And that's how I could justify it. This is a good deal. Because it's still best in class. And as long as your value system doesn't get compromised, because you should never change your values, then it's okay. You're never selling out. But it's when you do take a big check because I know this isn't really right. I shouldn't be doing this with Trojans, but maybe, and right? Then you're selling out.
Well, one more quick question.
I actually passed on that deal.
Right back there.
Just so you know. Yeah, they wanted flavored.
I know. I saw Ming side Trojans.
Hi, Carly Fisher, food
Lemongrass?
writer from
Wait.
Chicago.
Wait, I'm sorry, one more time?
I'm Carly Fisher, food writer from Chicago. Just have a quick question as far as all 3 of the sort of cooking show generations are up on stage, from Jacques up until Spike. And I'm wondering what you think the next wave of food shows. What's the direction of what's going to be on TV?
Where are we headed?
I don't know, cooking on the moon or something like that. I'm not
Extreme
sure.
reality.
No, the reality's done. No more
Reality's done.
extreme.
I think, my personal opinion, I think where cooking food on TV is going, and I think it'll take a little while to get there because I think America's got to marry itself to it, is the true reality of food from start to finish. Seeing a calf born, seeing that same calf being slaughtered, seeing somebody shoot an antelope, harvesting a rabbit.
More transparency.
That's what I'm saying. Like people are afraid of it, but they really want to know it, and it's a very touchy subject in America. Always has been, and Jacques would know more than I do about that. But that's what we eat, and people want to go so back to this farm to table. And to Jacques' point, like I don't need to name the carrot. I just want the carrot to be good, and I don't need to name the animal, although I name most of my animals. But we want to know where they come from, because that's what food is. And in America, we've been so divorced from food for so many years. We think that hamburger comes in a patty. It doesn't. It comes in an animal. And if people don't start realizing that, the whole world's going to turn upside down eventually, because we all want to know everything about food. These food and wine festivals tell us that exact thing. People want to know what the food is, but people have to own up to what it really is, which it comes, if you pick a strawberry off the plant, it's because it comes from the plant. I mean, I remember my little girls picking their first strawberries, and they're like, they looked at me and go, "Can I eat it?" I mean, that's terrible. I mean, but that's our reality of food in America. We've taken ourselves and separated ourselves all the way from food, because food comes from a grocery. It doesn't come from people who raise it, or people have to, mature it, any of that stuff. And I know it because my kids say it. And
So your answer is we could be going back to seeing shows that are more about where things are really coming
That's
from.
right.
Okay.
Sorry.
You disagree? I've got to wrap up, but you disagree?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we all hope as chefs. But I think people are going to continue pushing the limits of reality television, and coming up with different shows that are going to be, I can't even imagine what else we're going to be able to do as far as a reality cooking show. But I think we're going to
chef.
Right, exactly. I think we're going to keep on going for a while and progressing in the direction that personally I think that it's going.
All right, well, I'm going to ask you guys, if you can, I got to cut you, real quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. What I wanted to say, I don't know where it's going to go, but I hope it's continued. Because 50 years ago I came to America, there was only one salad in the supermarket. That was iceberg. There was no leeks, there was no shallot, there was nothing. So it was another world altogether. So I don't know where we're going. I look in France through the 17th, 18th century, time at which the chef was very important, then totally disappeared. So it may happen, but so I hope it continues, because for the time being, if a good mother wanted her child to marry a doctor and a lawyer 30 years ago, certainly not a cook, now we are genius. So I hope it continues.
And on that note, let's thank our panel. We'll be